Okay, we're back again for World End Economica, episode 1. It has been a little while since the last episode came out, but we're going to continue where we left off. Alright, let's start this. I squashed the hot dog wrapper and stood up immediately. Time to head back, look for more money-giving trees. And eventually, I'd become someone who'd be acknowledged here. And then, after that, while on the train, I fixed my hold on my bag while staring at the giant panoply of Newton City's receding buildings. I guess I think he might be on the train at the moment. I guess that's supposed to be like light shining through. Oh, what's this? Oh no, don't tell me I finished the end. Wouldn't that be something? I make a recording and this is the end that I was at. You know what? I didn't know I was basically at the end. If this is the end, this is going to be one little short episode to show you the end. I might as well talk. If this is the end of episode 1, there will be a second episode. I do have episode 2, and episode 3 is not out yet, but that means we'll move on to episode 2 then, after this one. So this could be possibly a short recording, I guess. It's kind of cool watching the little zigzags here. Literally, I don't know what some of this has anything to do with what's going on, but I guess that it's giving you a little more projector of how it's supposed to look. I do think that this might have had a few little issues graphically, because there was a lot of black screens throughout the recordings. I mean, if you went through and watched, you'll notice that there were quite a few. There might have been a few technical issues. From my understanding, this is not running on the original engine. Sekai Project ported it to the Renplay engine, I believe. So I only have the one that they released on Steam. That's what this version is. I believe there is another version out there that is self-published by the actual developers. I believe they self-published an English version. Oh, maybe it isn't the end. It was just some sort of weird cut right there. As expected, visiting Newton City and replenishing my reserves after they had been worn down by a week of trading. Paying no heed to the temperatures of consumerism found in the bustling streets, I headed straight back to the church. The scenery changed so much that it appeared as if I was no longer on the same lunar surface, even now. I started seeing more and more buildings on the verge of collapsing. I wonder what the hell that was. I still don't know why it showed a little cutscene there that it just decided to show. There were people draping fishing lines into the canals, and people growing their own food to cut costs. There were people selling steam buns, people resurfacing knives, and even people repairing shoes on contract. It was a place filled with bustling life, far removed from the realm of high profits. Clicking my tongue on no one in particular, I jumped past throngs of buildings while making my way back. While getting yelled at by an old fella, I jumped off the rooftop. Get off my lawn! That's what I'm imagining right now. Get off my lawn, you freaking kid! I jumped off the rooftop of a 4-story building and flew into the air. I could see the lunar Chinese restaurant off in the distance. I can just imagine it right now. He's being yelled at by this old geezer yelling at him. I mean, you always see these things like the old dude's always telling the kids, "Get off my lawn," and all that other shit like that. I'm just imagining an old dude just yelling at him like, "Get off my roof," or whatever the hell he's jumping on. You know, it just seems like these buildings are not even in their how big they are up and down, because it's like as they stated in previous episodes, and he talked about the layout. What I'm seeing, picturing from his descriptions, is buildings that are all different, like just not even, just odd, like He was talking about like you go up like the floor 1 of one building would be like floor 10 of another. So it's like just seems like it's so lopsided in some of it. But I also think he was talking about how it was in a crater. Basically, it's all built up inside a crater. So I'm assuming that a lot of those buildings are on the outskirts of the crater, and so it's going upwards. You know how a crater, it's kind of like a dome going in, into the ground like that. So I guess that's how it would look. That's what I'm picturing when he talked about all that. Looking around, I could see the dirty buildings line street, and the big bowl cafe was on, as well as my favorite tunnel that opened out into the hill. However, it was impossible to stay in the air forever, thus I descended gradually with the gravity 1/6 that of Earth's tugging at me. I absorbed my inertia by bending my knees, then flew up for one last time to cover more ground. It's not like I could do this outside of paths with few people passing by. Depending on the circumstances, I could get pursued by police on grounds of dangerous behavior. However, this speeding sensation was simply unbearably awesome. It was totally suited for me, having just been rejuvenated by Newton City. Ooh, the inside of the church. For something on the moon, this is pretty wooden for like a building. Just seems like it would be made of different material than just like a big wooden building and wooden. Looks old. It looks like one you would see in like an old school looking RPG or something, like a JRPG or something where you go like that. That's where you do recovering. On some of the older school RPGs, you would go to the church. And a lot of the times it never really had religious meanings behind the church thing. It's just where you went for recovering. Well, it's time to get cranking and look for stocks that would bring me the money. And the moment I opened the door and walked in... Uh-oh. What's this? No, stop! A shrill voice resounded in the air. For a second, I wonder if I had waltzed into the wrong church, but it didn't seem to be the case. I could still hear the voice. I don't know what the hell's going on. No, stop it! What the hell's going on, man? What the hell? Sounds like someone is in a little having trouble or something. It sounded like it was coming from the halls of the main building. My mind spun in circles for a few seconds, and then cleared up immediately. I would go check it out. I mean, if someone's yelling, you might as well go check it out. I mean, someone might be in trouble. I mean, it might be one of the girls you never know. A burglar? And the voice was, Hagana. Oh no, Hagana. Something might be up. I think she has a little cute side to her. Go help her. Even though she was a damn cheeky and arrogant woman, she was still a woman. Oh no, the feminists would be mad at you for saying that. Calling her that just because she's a woman, she need help. The whole, that type of ideal behind it. I jumped off the back of a row of pews, flew over them, and dashed down the hall. I heard a shriek and the sound of something getting flipped over. I opened the half-closed door that led to the living room, threw off my backpack, and made a tight fist. Oh no, that's him. Ooh, it turned red. Oh my. By now my head was swimming in adrenaline and my body was primed for battle. The only thought in my head was advice I had heard from a guerrilla fighter from the Caucasus region, who had said that yelling when jumping into a situation had a negative effect. Rushing in, grabbing people's attention easily. However, if you could drop down right away, you disappear from the sight and approach your target swiftly. Then, once you were within range, you'd get up in one go and apply overwhelming force. If your opponent was armed with a gun, just jump off to the side. He wouldn't be able to hit you. If he wielded a blade, just go straight for him. It's not as scary as you'd think. Now if he's unarmed, just do whatever. Oh my, this is some older looking dude. Nah! I aimed at the dude who had just trashed the room and took a swing at him with my fist. I planted my feet with all my strength to increase the power of friction, increasing my effective mass and thus the power of my punch. As long as your mass was low, the power of your attack would only be what Newton's third law gave you. My punch made a clear hit on my opponent, who had just turned towards me in surprise. With a nice sounding smack, the punch went through unhindered. That seemed to be enough. I got pulled along by the inertia of my punch, and by the time I stopped spinning on my other foot, my opponent spun around awkwardly and collapsed right there. He wasn't passed out, although he might have gotten a concussion. His eyes were zoned out and his hands were, which looked like they were trying to grab onto something, were trembling and stiff. Preparing myself to kick him in the air at a moment's notice, I called out to Hagana without averting my eyes one bit. "You okay?" In the corner of my eyes, I could swear to make out a figure clad entirely in black. You know what? This might be a good. This moment in time might actually better their relationship. That, you know, he does care in a sense, even though he doesn't really like her. He does have some you know, some thoughts of caring about her in a way. He's not just gonna leave her to get hurt. So there's some sort of emotion there. He does care for others. He's not just gonna let someone, you know, get attacked. It was Hagana. She was standing motionless and silent, stuck against the wall. No audible reply came back. However, she was silent not because of the usual arrogant factors, but because she was simply unable to speak. Maybe she didn't expect you to come in there and knock the guy out. Or I guess he's not knocked out, but hit him. The man grabbed onto the fallen sofa with one hand, tried to prop himself back up somewhat. I grabbed that hand and twisted it upwards. I squeezed the bony part of his wrist and twisted it upwards and outwards. His body fell over easily, and the extreme pain made the intruder's thoughts quite clear. Ooh. "Hey, what are you?" Those were my words after I rotated his arm behind his back, putting me in a position to let him apply additional pressure at any time. This guy was a middle-aged man, about the same height as me. He was a grimy appearance, as well as frizzled hair that was mostly thinned out. He looked quite a crafty guy. When you first saw him, he does look like he's a mysterious little dude. A mysterious guy. He doesn't look like he kind of look at I guess he might be in a little pain in this picture here. What he's been showing. That might be why he's showing that. But when they showed him earlier, that little brief picture. Kind of looks like someone who would be a little on the not the non-trusting side of things. You can't really trust this dude. I looked past the man at Hagana. It didn't look like he had assaulted her or anything. That's good. The only thing I could see was that the corners of her damn cheeky eyes have gotten red, and that her hands were trembling a bit. "If you don't answer properly, I'll kill you. Even if you remain silent, I'll kill you." I knew many deserted lots, and I also knew ruffians who came from war-torn regions on Earth. In a place where there was a possibility, or maybe just one murder a year, my threat probably sounded like a child's bluff. However, that appraisal deemed on the circumstances. The man I've subdued pretty much instantaneously let out a hoarse shriek. I twisted his arm lightly and asked him again, "What are you, a burglar? Did you know that it's okay to punish a burglar by killing him?" Personally, I don't agree with that. I don't think a burglar I know should. Well, I guess it's dependent on the circumstances. Did he use a weapon? Did he harm someone? Does he have a gun? Does he have a knife? Was he going to be in the process of? I mean, just because he's a burglar does not equal death, in my opinion. I don't think it all depends on the circumstances. Was it a crime done, you know, a peaceful crime, you know, or did he hurt someone in the process? Did he kill someone in the process? That's all it is. So, what I could tell here, he didn't hurt her or anything or touch her. He might have flipped over some stuff and damaged some stuff, but I don't think he deserves death. Yeah! This time, his shriek was quite clear. "Wait! Please wait! Don't kill me!" "That'll depend on the circumstances. What's with the mess in this room? Enlighten me." I twisted his arm some more, and he let out a squeal. I knew that I managed to make Hagana cower in fear. She was sprying feminine and totally out of it. It's a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. I'm not a burglar. No way. So then what are you? I'd hardly expect some neighbor to come over for tea and then get angry enough to flip over a sofa, send a table flying with a kick, and rip out the carpet. The room really did look that way, like a building marked for demolition. Furthermore, I myself heard Haganah shouting for him to stop, and also her hand was trembling. Well, but it wasn't my fault. It's her fault. That is curious, her fault. I guess, we don't understand the whole situation here, what's going on, but it would seem like, he might have been the culprit. But maybe she did the damage. I mean, we don't know much about her. Oh yeah? Well, aren't you the self-righteous burglar? Yeah! Like I said, I'm not a burglar, it's true. I'm a debt collector. A debt collector. Debt collector? That's right. I came to collect some owed money. It's just my job. Well, the whole debt collector type of thing, I think it's very dependent on the person, on whether you think they're just doing their job or they're jerks. Because I have no doubt that some of those people are complete jerks and assholes. And they will try to get any way to get their money. I mean, you also look at it, some of those debt collector type of things, when you look at, like, when they're owed to, like, crime syndicates or anything, those type of debt collectors are, I wouldn't be nice to one of those people. They're basically part of a mob or a group. They're not nice people. They're not going to be your, I'm just doing my job type of thing. They're going to be, I'm going to kick your ass type of thing. I'm going to fucking kill you if you don't give me my money. I didn't think he was lying, but decided to look over at Haganah anyways. After Haganah stared at the suffering man, she noticed my gaze and turned toward me in surprise. Is that the case? When asked, she paused for a second and then nodded. So that was the case? Tsk. I clicked my tongue and let the man go. The man crawled along the floor to run away, then turned around. What the? It's just a brat. Oh, he's gonna call you a brat? If you think I'm a brat, want to go for round 2? The kid just kicked your ass. Oh, I wouldn't call him a brat. Yeah, this dude he looks shady. He doesn't look like your nice guy, but maybe he's just a really nervous guy. Treating up my body had really been convenient for a lot of things. The debt collector shook his head violently and looked up at me through surveillance eyes. So, the debt collector's one of those types, huh? They even had the right to do all this? Well, I figured. So, what are we going to do? Huh? I said, what should we do? Should we call the cops? Or are we really going to do some debt collecting? The debt collector clearly gulped. However, afterwards, he lowered his gaze. At most, I'd be lectured at all night in detention. Besides, if you call the cops, I will just read them this loan statement. I don't really want to since it cost me some fees, but I could totally just go get the courts to foreclose on you. Well, aren't we a spunky one? See, I knew this guy wasn't the best if he's going to make a threat like that. Just on this possible misunderstanding here. I moved my knee up to scoot over to him, but he suddenly pulled back, so I was unable to force him down anymore. And with that, I remembered one thing from my training. If your opponent stopped yielding, go for negotiations. Well, you're here for the interest and fees, right? Is he going to be like financial help? Is he going to use some of his finances to help out this church that might be apparently owes money? Yeah. See, you understand, right? In this world, you can't just borrow money and refuse to show even the small signs of paying it back. Besides, I got totally treated like trash. I don't think the totally treated like trash thing. I mean, he may have beaten you up, unless you're talking about before he showed up, where Hagana might have been a little verbal at you or something. I don't know if she would have put any hands on you, as she was trembling there. She might have been angry. The debt collector glanced over at Hagana, so... she might have treated him like trash? Following his lead, I looked over. She was cowering against the wall like a pinned butterfly. When the money was lent out, it was all humility and everything, you know. Well, I guess it was Lisa who was lowering her head. Not sure if I understand the situation here. Well, I can kind of see that. Oh, you see, right? Why do I have to put up with being called a dung beetle or space trash? Wait, is Hagana calling you dung beetle and space trash? Is she verbally calling you names? I doubt Lisa would be doing any of that stuff. Lisa's more mature than that. Hagana clearly has this mentality of calling people names, I think. She definitely, I think, would be the one doing such things. Looking at Hagana past the grumbling debt collector, I could see her looking downwards and staring at us with sullen, childish eyes. I can kind of picture this little cute face looking down, kind of noticing that maybe she's done wrong. Besides, it's not like I'm asking for the entire principal back. I know that it's impossible anyway, but this is also a business, so I'd like for the interest to be paid back at least. And as he said that... Oh. There's no money here for you! Ooh, Hagana's yelling. Ooh. Hagana yelled out. The debt collector shrugged and turned toward me with, "See, I told you," written on his face. I do think that Hall understands maybe how you're feeling towards her. What kind of character she is, you know, what kind of girl she is. Not the nicest. He's probably in the right. I heaved a sigh of resignation and looked up at him. So, how much? I knew he probably would be the one paying. What? The interest. How much is it? Oh. His face lit up. Don't tell me that you are gonna. Depends on the amount. Oh. Saying too much might result in the offer's retraction, but saying too little might end with losing money. I could see the guy tackling this question in his mind for a moment until he finally came up with an answer. 200 mools. Guess that's not too much. From my understanding of what they've talked about the currency so far, it doesn't seem like it's that much money, 200 mools, so it's... He's not asking for a huge sum. I remembered how Lisa reacted when I gave her 200 mools, so this was it, huh? So, that's this month's interest, or this year's interest? This month's. Since my top blew over, I did a bunch of things. This is lower than the usual. It's actually 6% annual interest on a $50,000 mool principal. Compound interest is kind of annoying, so I had just set it at 250 mools a month. Since I had totally thought that this was some shady loan deal, I was surprised at the relatively low interest rate here. To hide my surprise, I ordered him coldly. Show me the load ingredient. What? At first, the debt collector was speechless. But eventually he reluctantly showed it to me. Those numbers he quoted were certainly written down here. I sighed again and stuck my hand into my pocket. Here. I had run out of 100 mule bills, so I carefully counted out 200 mules worth of bills and handed it to him. He reached out carefully, as if I would smack him the moment he laid his hands on the money. After receiving the money, he hunched over the money and counted furtively. It's good. All right. Well then, I'll be of... Ha! Wait up. I swept his leg quickly with my front leg, causing him to fall over. Is that how you get his attention? You trip him? Then I got up, walked over to him, put my knee in his face, and squatted down. Oh, that's why he's mad. Okay, I see. You got some nerve not giving me a receipt. Aren't you a student? Talk about money doesn't bother me. You tell me. After I said that, the debt collector resigned himself, cut me a receipt, and returned dejectedly. I think it is important for you to get that receipt. I mean, you want proof that you paid him money, so he can't just come back and try to ask for that money again. Yeah, that is smart of you, and definitely getting receipts on stuff like that, where you owe money on something, is probably crucial. You definitely want to have that documentation available to you, and that information, so that if they ever try to, go back and say you didn't do this or you didn't pay this, that you have proof that you have done so, and that they received it. I leaned against the magnificent door in this church, in which hung a crucified man, and saw off the man's faint silhouette before looking back at the receipt in my hand. 200 mules of interest was probably a large amount of money in these parts. If I wanted to earn 200 mules with the job Lisa offered to refer me to, it would take 4 to 5 days worth of income to come up with that amount. Furthermore, in that period of time, there would be food expenses and rent, along with other consumables and such that must be paid. In other words, low income meant you couldn't save up money. If you couldn't save up money, you couldn't invest, and if you couldn't invest, you'd be forced to make money by selling your time forever. That is one of the shitty cycles of low income. You try to make money, and you only make enough to support your living expenses, and maybe a little extra spending money, maybe. And you really don't have. But I think most people nowadays actually might have the money to actually save up for something, but they don't. I think we're in a society is on kind of on a cycle of people. They want to spend now, and they don't always look at the possibility of saving that money. I know I fall in that trap. I make more than enough money to save, and I kind of end up blowing it all the time. On stuff I like, mainly my hobby stuff like video games, manga, anime. It's usually the categories I spend my money on. A shovel could not fill a giant hole. You could only fill a giant hole by pushing a snowball down a hill until it snowballed into enormous proportions. I actually hadn't seen snow before, but I had heard advice before about the investments and really liked this particular analogy involving snowballs. Simply put, that's why these 200 mules weren't just 200 mules to me. It's something that could become 10,000 mules, or even 1 million mules in the future. When Lisa returns, I'd have to get my money back. At least I saw her putting 200 mules in that cupboard. I wasn't going to let her just say she didn't have it. Well, you did just pay 200 mules, so he still isn't that nice to just pay 200 mules and not ask for a return. But which does make sense. I mean, she could let you stay longer if you needed, and among other things, you did just pay her 200, or she could just give the 200 mules you did put down back to you. While pondering that, I crossed the prayer hall and returned back to the living room. Hannah was putting the furniture back in place. She was emotionless, but somehow I got the feeling that she was angry. She does seem to be a very emotional lady. She I don't know if this would be a mixture of a build up in a better relationship between you two. It might depend on what's going to happen next, how the conversation goes. But there's definitely a spark there that you definitely did show some interest in her, at least in protecting her in a way and not wanting her to be harmed. But once you got the understanding of what was going on there, you did notice that there really wasn't going to be any harm, that she was the one who cause probably of what's going on here. She made it a little worse than it looked. It was probably the rough way she was handling the overturned table and kicked up carpet. I would prefer not to refer to her by something that would give off an aura of prettiness, such as girl. However, Hagana unmistakably possessed a delicate XX chromosome, so she was as weak in body as she was strong in spirit. It would be a different story if you had just arrived from Earth, but for people who had lived on the moon for a long time and gotten accustomed to low gravity, they'd only be able to deliver a proportional low amount of force as well. I guess that makes sense. I mean, your body is going to have to adjust to the living of lower gravity, and there's definitely things you would have to do for that. I mean, by this point in time in history, where if they're building a colony on the moon and stuff like that, and it seems like it has had a decent amount of time has passed, and they would have the understanding of, if you live on the moon, you're going to have to do certain things to make sure that, or even have, just to make sure your bones don't become brittle and your muscles don't become too weak. I wouldn't be surprised if most of them probably have to do daily exercises, not out of the wanting to be fit, but so that for their health, in the matter of, you don't want your, to die type of thing, probably. I don't know how bad it would be. But I do have the understanding that low gravity and other things can have effect on your certain aspects of your health. She was trying to put the big sofa back in its place, but it wasn't going too well. She must have noticed me standing in the doorway, but she hadn't asked for any help. She looked like she was just sort of telling me that she wouldn't ask for help from the likes of me. I mean, you could just go over there and help her. Just not say any word. Just go over there, grab it, do it, not mention a peep. I thought she was a cheeky girl, so there was no obligation for me to help. Besides, she hadn't even thanked me yet. I walked past the doorway and was about to go back to my room. I heard a verse just as I was passing by Hagana. Oh. Why won't you help me? So she's asking for help now? She couldn't move the sofa back in place because she couldn't lift it at all the way up. A leg was stuck. She tried picking it up from different angles, but none of those attempts worked. I would have just helped her anyways, in my opinion. I mean, she clearly was struggling. I mean, if someone's clearly struggling like that, and you're already going to be passing through there in a couple seconds of your time of picking it up and putting it down, wouldn't be that big of an issue. You're not going to have to assert that much effort. Even though she was panting lightly, her eyes were fixated on the task with the weight of a dumbbell. Furthermore, it looked like her princess hubris was in full force. I sighed heavily and replied to her. Why do I need to help you if I haven't been asked? She kind of asked you right there in a way. I would have took that as an ask. Kind of not the best way to ask someone, but I would have been, she would be asking. It's kind of a way of saying, nudge, nudge, how about you help me? And you don't always have to be asked to help someone. If you notice the situation of what's going on, you can always go over there and help. And if they don't want your help, more than likely they'll reply, hey, don't, get away. And you just say, I'm sorry, you just looked like you needed some help or something. And you just say, I'm sorry, I'll just go back to what I'm doing. And you don't want help, and you just leave it at that. Sure enough, Hagana lowered her head. With her slender chin and slender neck, her lowering her head made her a textbook example of a delicate girl. Her eyeballs wrinkled as I wondered if she was really putting on a show, but she answered me with the following. If I asked, would you help? You could just ask. Just ask him. And you'll see what the reply is. You don't have to make this a longer conversation than it needs to be. I could feel my face twitching. But if I got mad now, I'd hate myself for acting like a baby. Hence, I prepared myself and answered, yeah. Help me out. Oh. I looked back at Hagana in surprise. She was staring back at me with pure black eyes. Oh, you don't have to get a little angry there. He's going to help you. Getting mad at him is doing the opposite of... It's not going to result in betterment of him helping you, even though he might be. Because he has no obligation of helping you. It's... If you're the one who resulted in this being tipped over, he has zero obligation to help you, if you really wanted to. He's doing it because you asked. It's being nice. Are you deaf? She continued with a 1-2 combo, just like a relentless princess with a whip. If they push, retreat. When they retreat, push. Hagana's great at arguments. While feeling regret, I really had to help her now that I said I would. Alright, I get it. Shit. Oh, look at her eyes. She kind of went like, what? What was that last one? I wonder, why did you say shit for? She asked me to repeat what I said, and I clicked my tongue angrily. Hearing that, Hagana totally looked condescendingly at me, wondering what was with this baboon. I would be like, why did you just say shit for? Did you do something? Like, oh shit. Or, I don't know, I don't understand why you said shit, really. It just doesn't seem, I guess, that greatest. I felt that it was not in my best interest to let Hagana into my view, so I averted my eyes, put my hands on the fallen sofa, lifted it up without bending my knees. Lifting it above her body height was a little bit of rebellion on my part. Keeping it in that position, I asked her, "Oh, where would you like this place, milady?" Oh, you're trying to play a little joke here, are you? Be like, I got this, girl. Where would you like this, princess? I asked her, injecting ample amounts of disdain into my tone. However, Hagana didn't show any signs of caring. She looked over at the carpet immediately and pondered. It seemed that my disdain raised not an inch of air from her. She really got on my nerves. The rear leg should line up with this spot. The sofa should place perpendicular to this way. After being instructed briefly, I lowered the sofa as she instructed since I didn't feel like nitpicking. It's a bit crooked. Being told that, I gritted my molars, took a deep breath, and was somehow able to suppress my anger. Is it okay now? Satisfied? Yeah, it looks that way. Hagana nodded and turned around immediately to start collecting the various little items scattered on the floor. No words of appreciation came my way. I wasn't expecting any to begin with, but I ended up feeling anger similar to disappointment. In the village where I grew up, if you did something for someone, they'd thank you for it. If someone did something for you, you'd return the favor, of course. The culture over there, which I had considered simple, crude, and outdated, had somehow rooted itself strongly in me. Well, usually that's how it becomes. I mean, where you grow up and how you're raised and other things like that, they do ingrain into you somewhat. And a lot of that, even though you might not always notice, is kind of how you treat others and many other things. It's part of your environment. Your environment will shape how you grow up and how you will treat others and other things like that. And that's part of the issue when it comes to a lot of things. You look at a lot of conflicts and other things, and when things aren't compatible, some of the things is environment. Some things just don't blend together. Certain cultures and society just will not interact well because they are opposites, or the way they think is not the same, and you can't force those type of things to blend together. That's why I think that the ideal of multiculturalism really is not a logical thing. Cultures cannot just be intertwined. Cultures are different. They grow up based on their environment, and you can't just expect them to meld together. They're not going to always meld together. There's going to be conflict, unless you're willing to put up with that conflict and try to fix them. It's going to be a long process. It's sometimes the culture's just got to be different. It's just how it is, and sometimes you just got to respect other people's cultures and how they are, and understand that you can't just force ideals together that are different. I scratched my head while trying to contemplate all the differences between Hagana and me. I had gotten into a bad mood again, wasting the wonderful respiration I had enjoyed from Skrondinger Street. When I pronounce that street name, I still think I'm pronouncing it wrong. Let's see. Skrondinger Street? I really wish that, there was just something I could look at and it would pronounce it for me. Because I really think I'm butchering it. Maybe I should go stroll through Red Valley sometime. On top of that, if I associated with Hagana anymore, there'd be a possibility I might end up laying hands on her. Ooh, come on, man. Just because you're pissed by words, or she gets on your nerves, you really shouldn't lay a hand on her. Now, if she lays a hand on you, I think you have you're in your full rights to lay your hand on her. Unless you're talking in a sexual way. Then yes, you maybe control that urge there. She might be an attractive young lady, but you have no right to force yourself on her by putting your hands, unless she shows that she wants that. Of course I didn't mean it. Oh, right here. Okay. He explains to us he doesn't mean it in a sexual sense. He means in a physical violence sense. But still, you shouldn't lay a hand on her if she's not going to lay a hand on you. If she lays a hand on you, I think you're in the full right, man. Hit her. She wants to get violent. Just don't be the one to initiate the violence. Just be the one to return. So, he wasn't talking about sexual. I was questioning before that popped up which one it was, but at least it explained to us what he was meaning. I was about to leave the living room and walk into the hallway leading to the inner rooms, and thus when I heard a voice call out to me, I totally thought it was a hallucination. There aren't any enough flowers. Oh, it's Hagana. When I turned around, I saw Hagana putting a vase on the table and arranging the flowers. The stark contrast between the white lily-like flowers and the pitch-black Hagana in juxtaposition was remarkable. I didn't tell you the truth. Bigger words like that, I don't know what that means. I'm not gonna lie. My understanding of every word, I do not understand what that word means. Juxtaposition. Don't know what it means. I might have heard the word before, but it's a word I don't really use, and since I don't really use it, the understanding of said word is lost on me. However, next to it were some poor flowers flattened by someone stepping on them. I guess that's what she meant. So what? Ooh, she turns toward you. Get some for me. It's a weird way of asking. Why would he have to get you some? What's the reasoning behind needing some more? I was pretty much silent as I walked reflexively towards Hagana. If the following words hadn't popped out of her mouth, I would have probably walked right up to her and turned that graceful face of hers into tomato paste. This dude definitely has some anger issues, I think. He does have some issues with anger. And I'm surprised he hasn't hit someone for no reason. Well, I guess you can kind of... Well, no, I guess that guy wouldn't have been no reason. He thought something was going on, and he thought he was protecting Hagana for the most part. Oh, she actually asked, please. Please. My feet stopped instantly, and I ended up staring steadily at Hagana. She returned my stare in the same manner, and said, I asked you to help. So, I should go do it as soon as possible, huh? I couldn't figure out what to say or how to say it. I had confidence in my thought process, but when interacting with these women, I get a strong message that my head wasn't quite screwed on right. It might be more maybe you just don't have a lot of experience interacting with the opposite, gender. And of course that can be a little odd, or maybe you have an attraction, a physical attraction with her, and that could play a part in your thought process. Maybe it's just you kind of don't like her, but yet do at the same time. And it's kind of a mixed feeling, and you don't know how to reply to it. I'd given my word, and Hagana had, at least in appearance, asked me to do something. Having gotten nothing, not even a thanks in return, I replied bitterly. What kind of flower is it? Staring at me with motionless eyes, as if saying that it's obvious what flowers she was looking for. Hagana pointed her slender finger at the vase. I don't think pointing's gonna help too much. I mean, unless he knows, maybe she doesn't really know. I don't know where those grow. Me neither. Thinking what? I furrowed my eyebrows and was about to jab Hagana in the chin, but Hagana's expression remained unchanged. But aren't you as nimble as a monkey? It should be more logical for you to search than me. What? I don't think she was insulting you, man. I wouldn't have really took it as too much of an insult. She's not calling you some animal, but like you're flexible like a monkey. Some of those things I guess can be taken in the wrong way, especially if you don't have a very good relationship with the person already. Why did I have to follow her orders, and even have to allow myself to be called a monkey? I wanted to yell at her, but Hagana paid no attention to me. Spun her head around and looked at the vase again. I wonder what the meaning behind the vase is. Oh, here we go. Lisa grew these flowers. It would be a problem if there was less than 7. That's... so... you damaged them and you kind of want to fix the problem with that, and you... it seems. At that moment, my anger evaporated instantly. Her profile looked so pitiful. However, I quickly corrected my thought and told myself, it's just a show mimicking people with the XX chromosome. As long as you were born a pretty woman, no matter how rotten you were inside, you'd look like a beauty standing next to some flowers. She does have a little cute side to her, I guess you could say. Maybe if she wasn't wearing that brown coat, it'd look a little bit better. I do like a girl with some darker colored hair. She's got the little mole under her eye right there. Well, as long as it was a real problem, I could just go and get some. Even though my refutations were unrelenting, I ended up running off dejectedly to find some flowers. Okay, well, he's about to go run out and go look for some flowers. I think this will be a decent place to end at for now. I guess I kind of was surprised at the beginning. I don't know what that little video, kind of crappy quality video to tell you the truth. I have noticed that with PC games. I don't know why a lot of the videos just seem to be crappy quality. they just seemed a little fuzzy and other things all the time. And this one I don't think was that great of quality-wise. I've noticed that with a lot of, not a lot, every PC game, but especially older ones, the video quality just seems, I don't know why they suck. They just suck. It's usually not the same when it comes to when you're playing on console and they have like a video style cutscene. But you never know. Maybe it's dependent on what codecs you have, codexes you have installed on your computer. But I don't understand why that little video was there. To tell you the truth, it literally the setting and it just popping up made little sense to me. Well, you got to see some little videos showing some stuff. Well, I would like to see how this relationship building with Hall here and Hagana end up. I mean, for all we know, maybe a relationship actually does build out of this, or maybe nothing. I mean, I don't think this is a romance-based visual novel or any of that stuff. But we'll continue this again. I want to thank you guys for listening to me chat on here, giving some opinions on some things as well as we went through. And we'll continue it again. I mean, I know that it was a little while since the last one. The other one should be not, the next episode shouldn't be as long time frame wise. And thank you guys for all watching. If you want, you can leave a like. Feel free to comment, subscribe if you want, and we'll see you again.